I'm just going to have a brief reflection to begin with, looking at what is called addiction. From the perspective of this exploration that we meet for, an exploration of what we really are. So let's begin with in the play, what I call the play of life, in the world, in the culture, there is a pretty consistent belief and a long-standing belief that our happiness is a pleasure thing. Pleasure is our happiness. Feeling pleasure, feeling good. And this belief that happiness is a pleasure thing generates, because it makes sense to generate the behavior of wanting pleasure, of seeking after pleasure. And this seeking is a seeking in the world. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, folks. Remember, this is simply the training, if you like, in the culture. But let's just see it as this. It begins with a belief that happiness is a pleasure thing and generates behavior that leads to wanting and seeking in the world after circumstances, after relationships, after activities, after objects, belongings, after money, after sex, gambling, exercise, whatever is the pleasure thing. And I'm sure most of you here have had the experience of something is acquired, an object of pleasure, an activity of pleasure, and it's short-lived. It's short-lived. It's the new iPhone is no longer new, and the red sports car has got scratched, and the falling in love moment has gone south. So then the belief resurges. Well, I didn't try hard enough, or I've just got to be more focused and intentful. I'm going to go seeking again and try even harder to seek happiness. And then the seeking also is combined with wanting to avoid being disappointed. Well, it didn't work the first time, so I'm going to work even harder to keep hold of the pleasure thing, to avoid feeling disappointed again. And this combination of the seeking, being disappointed, seeking again to avoid being disappointed, and seeking happiness again, is a treadmill that can become compulsive and addictive. And that's the definition of suffering. That's the definition of suffering. So always seeking and facing disappointment, and depending on the activity or the object of pleasure, could be by now damaging the biological well-being of the system and generating a great deal of psychological stress. So this way in the world, this paradigm, doesn't deliver. And again, it all begins with an identification, a belief in the belief that there's a separate me, and happiness exists. Happiness is separate from me. I've got to seek it. There's a separate me. Happiness is separate from me. I've got to seek it. So this is the consciousness of separation consciousness. Now, for some and for many, the seeking, and the disappointment and the more and more painful is this seeking after happiness, for some, there's a recognition that, oh, something here is not working. And for some will turn to therapy. There's a belief I'm broken, there's something wrong with me. And some will turn to religion or spirituality. And any of those inquiries into therapy and spirituality and religion can deliver some relief. But the starting point is still, there's something broken about me. There's something that I need help with. And this therapy modality or this religion or this teacher has the answer. So there's still a perpetuation of a separation consciousness happening there. And there may be some easing of the suffering, because when it's believed that the answer has been found, I found the answer, you know, it's in this religion, or I found the answer, it's in this guru, or I found the answer, it's in this therapy, just keep doing this particular therapy. Yeah, there's a relief, there's a relaxation of the seeking. I found it, I found the answer. Yeah. But yet again, to the degree to which there's a belief that I am a separate person and my happiness or the relief I need exists in an object or a theory or a practice or a teacher, then the setup to be disappointed is contained in that misunderstanding that is separation consciousness, that there's a me and there's a separate teacher, there's a separate theory that I need to keep learning and building on in order to be happy. Now, anywhere in the life, there can be an arising of a desire, what I call the desire for truth. At any point, from early in childhood, throughout the adulthood, throughout the seeking in the world for happiness, throughout the seeking in religion and spirituality, there can be an arising of a desire for truth. And this is a deep desire to return home, to return to that understanding of who we are that exists and existed before the belief in a separate self entered in and took hold. And this desire is different from a seeking in the world for happiness or answers. This desire to know the truth is a turning within. It's not a turning out there into the world. It's a turning within. This turning within is not, this is why we call this exploration an inquiry. It's not a belief system. We're not sharing a belief system here. We are turning within to explore with consciousness what we truly are. Beyond and before the belief I'm a separate person in the body. This turning within is not the building up of beliefs. It's the opposite. It's the burning of beliefs. It's the burning away of all beliefs about who we think we are, what we think happened in our life to us. It's a burning of all beliefs, including the belief that this activity or this person or this teacher has got the answer. Sometimes this exploration is described as a denial of the world. But that's for me is a bit tricky, because it makes it sound like this exploration leads to a disconnect from the world, a lack of interest in the world. And that to me is so misunderstood. This, for me, this inquiry is the opposite of a denial of the world. It's an immersion into what the world really is, as not separate. There's a greater intimacy with life that arises through this inquiry. Now, as our beliefs about what brings us happiness begin to burn away, there may well be a natural dropping away of some activities or some relationships, but not out of a denial, but just a simple, the recognition that, that is not what's bringing me happiness. It never did. I'm now seeing that never did. Yeah, so I was just going there because I believed it did. And sometimes once the belief that that brings me happiness drops away, the interest in the actual activity or the circumstance or object drops away naturally. So this desire to know the truth, how it looks here is that this desire is our original desire. We're born with it. We come in with the desire to know the truth. And this inquiry is more a process of remembering who we always have been. We are that is the space within which the world appears. There's nothing of the world that is separate from us. We are the space within which the world appears. The world is made of us. So it makes no sense to seek after anything in the world for happiness, because we are already everything that the world is. And we couldn't be more filled with all the world has to offer than understanding what we really are.